It was nearly midnight when Steven Seagal walked into the lobby of the prestigious Grand Horizon Hotel. The marble floor gleamed, the chandeliers sparkled like ice, and soft piano music filled the air. Guests walked by in expensive suits and glittering dresses, but Steven arrived in his usual style: simple black jacket, dark jeans, hair tied back, and a small travel bag slung over his shoulder. He looked tired but peaceful, the kind of man who just wanted a quiet room and a warm shower after a long flight. He stepped up to the front desk with a polite nod. "Good evening." The hotel manager, a tall man with slicked hair and an oversized sense of authority, barely glanced at Steven. His eyes scanned him from head to toe: the plain clothes, the worn-out bag, the unassuming posture. He didn't recognize him. He didn't want to recognize him. Without even checking the computer, the manager raised a hand dismissively. "We're fully booked. No rooms available." Steven blinked slowly. "I actually have a reservation." Under Steven. Before he could finish, the manager cut him off sharply. "I said we're full." Then, with a cold smile, he added, "And we don't have rooms for people like you." A few guests nearby turned their heads. Steven stayed calm. "Sir, if you just check the system." The manager leaned closer, lowering his voice, but making sure others could hear. "Look, this hotel is for premium clients. People who can actually afford it." Steven didn't react. No anger, no irritation. Just silence. A deeper, heavier silence than the lobby music below the chandeliers. But the moment stretched. A couple at the lounge noticed the tension. A receptionist behind the counter looked nervous, glancing between the two men. One of the bellboys paused with a luggage cart, sensing something was very wrong. The manager scoffed and picked up a file, pretending to be busy. "You're wasting my time. Try a cheaper hotel down the street." Steven exhaled softly. He wasn't offended. He'd seen arrogance before. But the disrespect? That was something he never tolerated for long. The crowd felt a shift, a quiet tension rising in the air. And what Steven did next shocked the entire hotel. The lobby felt heavier now. Guests paused mid-conversation, noticing the unusual tension at the front desk. Steven Seagal stood quietly, his posture calm, hands loosely resting on his travel bag. He wasn't loud, he wasn't threatening, but the way he carried himself commanded respect. The hotel manager, however, was determined to prove his authority. He waved dismissively at Steven, ignoring the polite request to verify the booking. "Sir, I already told you. We're full," the manager said, voice sharp and condescending. "Now, leave before you cause a scene." Steven tilted his head slightly, maintaining eye contact, his voice calm but firm. "I've booked a suite. Please check the system." The manager snorted, tapping the counter. "Why would we check for someone dressed like that? Look around. This hotel is for serious guests, not travelers like you." A few guests shifted uncomfortably. Whispers started to spread. A young couple near the elevators exchanged glances. "Is that Steven Seagal?" one whispered. Steven remained composed, his silence more powerful than any shouting could have been. He wasn't angry, but he wasn't leaving either. There was a quiet dignity in the way he stood, unshakable like a mountain. The manager, growing frustrated at Steven's calmness, leaned over the counter. "You're wasting my time. If you don't leave now, I'll call security." At that moment, a hotel guest pulled out their phone, casually recording the interaction. Others followed. The lobby's quiet tension was turning into a stage for an unfolding drama. Steven's wife, who had been quietly standing behind him, whispered, "Maybe we should just find another hotel." Steven shook his head ever so slightly. "No," he said quietly. "I've already booked. Let's see this through." The manager's voice rose, now dripping with hostility. "You think you can just walk in here and demand a room? Who do you think you are?" A bellboy behind the counter recognized Steven instantly, but didn't dare speak. The tension was almost unbearable. The whispers among the guests grew louder. "That has to be Steven Seagal. No way. Look at him." But the manager didn't notice. Or maybe he refused to. His arrogance blinded him. Steven finally leaned just slightly forward and spoke again, his voice calm but firm. "Respect should not depend on who you think I am or how I look. Please check my reservation." For a moment, there was a pause. Even the piano music seemed to falter. The lobby held its collective breath. Have you ever been treated unfairly by someone in authority? Comment below and tell me which country or city you're watching from right now. The manager glared but still typed nothing. Meanwhile, the crowd around Steven continued to grow. Phones out, cameras rolling. The hotel lobby, once quiet and elegant, now buzzed with anticipation. Steven remained silent after speaking, a calm presence in a storm of arrogance. Everyone watching could feel it. This wasn't over. And whatever Steven was about to do next would shock the entire hotel. The lobby had transformed. What was once a quiet, polished hotel space now felt electric with anticipation. Guests who had been sipping wine or chatting softly now watched Steven Seagal and the hotel manager with bated breath. Phones were out. Cameras were recording. Every eye was on the unfolding confrontation. The manager, clearly frustrated that Steven had not left, stepped closer. His posture was aggressive, almost predatory, as if sheer intimidation could force Steven out. "You've wasted enough of my time," the manager snapped, jabbing a finger toward the exit. "Leave. Now." Steven remained calm, hands relaxed at his sides, eyes steady. He didn't move forward or back. His voice was low but carried an undeniable authority. "I have a reservation. I have done nothing wrong. Please, check the system." The manager laughed mockingly. "A reservation? For someone dressed like you? This is absurd. You don't belong here." Steven's wife, standing a few steps behind him, whispered nervously, "Steven, maybe we should just find another hotel. This isn't worth it." Steven shook his head, subtle but resolute. "No, I've booked this room. Let's see this through." Guests were now whispering among themselves. A couple in the lounge murmured, "Is that Steven Seagal? No way. Look at him. That's definitely him." The manager, oblivious to the murmurs, leaned closer, his voice rising. "You think you can just waltz in here and demand something you haven't earned? You're nothing special." Steven tilted his head slightly, a calm intensity in his eyes. He didn't yell. He didn't raise his fists. He simply said, "Respect isn't earned by judging others based on appearances. Check the system. You'll see I'm right." A hush fell over the lobby. Even the staff behind the counters froze. Guests now leaned forward in their seats, phones poised to capture every moment. One brave bystander pulled out their phone and quietly began recording. Others followed. It was as if the entire lobby knew history was being made in that small, tension-filled space. The manager's frustration grew, his face red. He barked, "Security, remove him from the premises." Steven's posture didn't change. Calm, unshakable, like the storm had no power over him. "I have broken no rules," he said quietly. "I am here legally. There is no reason to treat me with disrespect." The tension now rippled through the crowd. Guests murmured to one another, "Wait, isn't that Steven Seagal? I knew it. Look at him. That's him." Even the bellboys and housekeepers began whispering among themselves. Some recognized him instantly, some from movies, others from tabloids, but all agreed, quietly. This man commanded respect, whether or not the manager realized it. The manager, now flustered and sweating slightly, waved his hand dismissively, hoping to regain control. "You think fame means you can do whatever you want?" Steven Seagal's voice cut through the chatter. Calm, commanding, impossible to ignore. "I am not asking for anything special. I am asking for what I have already reserved. Treating someone unjustly does not make you powerful. It makes you weak." The lobby went silent. The piano music seemed to fade under the weight of his words. Guests exchanged wide-eyed glances. The tension was palpable, thick enough to cut with a knife. If you were in Steven's place right now, would you stand your ground or walk away? Be honest. Comment below what you would do. The manager, now visibly shaking, tapped nervously on the computer. He had no idea Steven's calm persistence had already started to win over the crowd. Guests whispered, phones flashing, recording everything. The staff behind the desk looked torn. Some wanted to side with their boss. Some were clearly impressed by Steven's dignity. Meanwhile, Steven didn't say another word. He simply stood there, serene, letting the manager's arrogance and his own patience speak louder than anything else. Every second stretched like a drumbeat, heightening the suspense. The lobby had become a stage, and Steven Seagal, with his quiet strength, was the undisputed star. By now, even more guests were gathering. Whispers spread like wildfire. "That's him. That's Steven Seagal." The tension between the manager and Steven had shifted. The power dynamic was subtly, but clearly moving in Steven's favor. And all the while, Steven remained calm, dignified, unshakable. What he would do next would leave the entire hotel speechless. A moment everyone in the lobby would remember forever. The lobby felt alive now, buzzing with energy that no one could ignore. Steven Seagal's quiet confidence had captured every eye. Guests who were once casually enjoying their evening now watched with rapt attention. Phones were out, cameras raised, and whispers rippled like wildfire across the marble floors. At first, no one wanted to speak. The manager, still determined to maintain authority, barked at Steven. "You think you can just demand a room like this? This is a 5-star hotel, not some roadside inn." Steven tilted his head, his calm gaze meeting the manager's. "I have done nothing wrong," he said evenly. "I am asking for what I have reserved. Please verify it." It was then that a young bellboy, carrying a luggage cart, froze mid-step. His eyes widened as recognition struck him like lightning. "Wait, that's Steven Seagal," he whispered to a coworker, barely audible. The coworker's jaw dropped. "No way, it can't be him." But the bellboy shook his head subtly, nodding toward Steven. "It is him. The actor. The martial artist. The Hollywood legend." Word spread quickly through the hotel staff, like a brush fire. The receptionist leaned toward the manager and whispered nervously, "Sir, I think he's Steven Seagal." The manager's face twisted in disbelief. He laughed nervously, trying to maintain control. "Huh, that's impossible. He's just another traveler trying to get attention." But the guests were already noticing the change. Whispers grew louder. "That has to be him. No way, that's Steven Seagal. Look at him standing there so calm. That's him." Phones flashed as more and more people discreetly began recording. The air was electric, every guest now witnessing a story unfolding that would soon go viral. The manager, still skeptical, waved a dismissive hand and muttered to the receptionist, "Check the bookings. I know he doesn't exist in the system." Meanwhile, Steven's presence remained commanding yet subtle. He didn't flaunt his fame. He didn't raise his voice. His calm demeanor contrasted sharply with the manager's flustered, arrogant energy. And that contrast only heightened the tension in the lobby. A guest in the lounge leaned over to their companion and whispered, "That is him. I watched all his movies. That's Steven Seagal." Even the housekeeping staff stopped their work to watch the scene. Guests who were previously ignoring the situation now clustered around the front desk, whispering and murmuring, eyes wide. It wasn't just curiosity anymore, it was anticipation. Everyone wanted to see how the manager would respond to being confronted by someone so iconic. The manager, still unwilling to accept the truth, cleared his throat. I don't see a reservation under that name. You must be mistaken." Steven, as calm as ever, said quietly, "Check again. I made this reservation days ago. There is no mistake." The manager fumbled with the computer, tapping keys nervously. His arrogance had begun to crack. Staff and guests leaned in closer, watching his every movement. Steven's silent patience had shifted the entire dynamic. The manager's authority was no longer absolute. The lobby itself seemed to side with Steven. Whispers among the guests grew into audible conversations. "Look at the way he's standing, unshaken. The manager doesn't know who he's dealing with. Imagine being in his shoes." Even some guests pulled their phones closer, whispering into them, "Guys, you have to see this. It's Steven Seagal in the lobby, and the manager is being ridiculous." The manager's hands trembled as he scrolled through the computer. Finally, he hesitated. His face went pale as the booking appeared on the screen. The VIP suite, fully paid, reserved days ago. Silence filled the lobby. All eyes shifted between the manager, the screen, and Steven. The arrogance that had dominated the room moments ago evaporated instantly. The staff exchanged glances, realizing the mistake. The manager's misjudgment had humiliated him publicly. Steven didn't smile. He didn't gloat. He simply stood, calm, dignified, commanding respect without ever saying a word. And the entire hotel understood. The balance of power had shifted. From that moment, it was clear. Steven Seagal's presence alone, his calm yet unwavering stance, had exposed arrogance and demanded acknowledgement. The lobby, once indifferent and polished, had become a stage for a lesson in humility, dignity, and quiet authority. The manager's disbelief was now complete. The staff whispered in awe, and the guests recorded every second, knowing they were witnessing something extraordinary. Have you ever experienced a moment where someone's calm confidence completely changed a situation? Comment below with your story. and tell me which city or country you're watching from." The tension, however, was far from over. Steven's next move would turn shock into awe, leaving the manager speechless and the hotel forever remembering the night Steven Seagal quietly, yet powerfully, commanded respect. The lobby was now silent, the kind of silence that comes when every eye is fixed on a single moment in history. Guests leaned forward, phones raised, cameras clicking quietly, capturing every second. The air was heavy with anticipation. Even the staff behind the front desk had stopped moving, frozen in the tension of what was about to unfold. Steven Seagal stood tall, calm, unshakable. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't flex his muscles or make a dramatic gesture. He simply let the weight of his presence and his patience speak. For a man who had faced countless enemies on screen, this was a different kind of battle, one fought not with fists, but with dignity and unwavering composure. The hotel manager, still flushed with embarrassment and barely able to maintain his authority, barked again. "You think showing up and demanding a room gives you special privileges? I don't care who you are. This is my hotel, and I run it." Steven tilted his head slightly, eyes calm but piercing. He stepped a little closer, voice low but commanding, cutting through the murmurs of the crowd like a blade. "Respect is not given to those who wield authority without fairness. You judged me before even checking the system. That is not strength. That is weakness." A ripple ran through the lobby. Guests gasped softly. Phones clicked. Even the bellboys and housekeeping staff froze, exchanging stunned glances. It wasn't just that Steven Seagal had spoken. It was how he spoke. Calm, unwavering, yet firm enough to make the arrogant manager feel the weight of every word. The manager's face twisted, trying to mask his uncertainty. He reached for the computer, tapping keys nervously, but even he knew he had already lost control. His previous confidence, the arrogance that had dominated the room, was crumbling. Steven's gaze never left him. "You had a choice to act with fairness. Instead, you chose disrespect. You humiliated someone without cause, and in doing so, you have revealed your own weakness, not mine." The lobby was completely silent now. Guests were holding their breath. A few whispers escaped here and there. "That's Steven Seagal. Look at him so calm. He doesn't need to shout, and yet everyone listens." The manager swallowed hard. Sweat glistened on his forehead. He was fumbling through the reservation system, hoping, praying, that somehow this man wasn't who he appeared to be. But the proof stared back at him from the screen. The VIP suite, fully booked, fully paid, reserved days ago. It was over. The manager could no longer argue. His voice faltered, weak and uncertain. I see the reservation." The crowd reacted immediately. Some guests gasped. Others whispered to one another. Phones were recording the moment the arrogant manager's authority finally cracked under the pressure of Steven's calm determination. Steven didn't raise his voice. He didn't mock or threaten. He simply stated the truth. "I asked for what I had already earned. Nothing more, nothing less. Respect is a right, not something granted based on appearance, wealth, or status." The staff and guests felt it. Even those who had doubted him moments ago now stood in quiet admiration. The manager, pale and trembling, could only mumble apologies. Every eye in the lobby was on Steven now. He had won, not through force or fame, but through composure, dignity, and quiet authority. The balance of power had shifted completely. The guests were witnessing a masterclass in patience and respect, a lesson in how true confidence doesn't need to roar to be heard. A guest whispered to another, awe in their voice. "Wow, he didn't need to fight. He didn't need to yell. He just stood his ground, and everyone listened." Another added, shaking their head, "That's the real power of a calm mind." Steven's quiet victory had turned the entire hotel lobby into a stage. The arrogant manager was humbled, the staff enlightened, and the guests captivated. The story that would be captured on phones that night would travel far beyond the hotel walls, a viral lesson in dignity and respect. And though Steven had not yet fully revealed the extent of his fame, the hotel now knew one undeniable truth. You cannot intimidate a man who carries himself with quiet confidence, who stands for what is right, and who refuses to let disrespect go unchallenged. The next move, what Steven would do now, would cement his place not just as a celebrity, but as a symbol of calm authority and respect that no arrogance could shake. Have you ever seen someone stay calm in the face of total disrespect and completely turn the situation around? Comment below with your experience, and let me know which city or country you're watching from. The stage was set. The tension, suspense, and admiration in the room had reached its peak. What happened next would shock the manager, awe the guests, and leave the entire hotel talking about this night for years to come. The tension in the lobby was nearly unbearable. Guests were frozen in place, holding their phones up, some leaning forward, eager to see what would happen next. Steven Seagal's calm demeanor had completely shifted the energy in the room. The arrogant manager was pale, his once commanding posture broken, his confidence crumbling like sand slipping through fingers. Then, the front doors opened, and the hotel's general manager rushed in. He had heard the commotion over the phone and immediately recognized the gravity of the situation. His eyes went wide as they fell on Steven Seagal, standing quietly but radiating an unshakable authority. "Mr. Seagal," the general manager exclaimed, almost tripping over his words. His voice echoed across the lobby. "Sir, we are honored. Please forgive the confusion. I didn't realize you were here." The room seemed to hold its collective breath. Guests turned their heads, cameras pointed, trying to catch every reaction. The rude front desk manager, already embarrassed and shaking, now paled further. His arrogance had been fully exposed. He had misjudged the calm, dignified man in front of him, and, as the general manager's words confirmed, he had been utterly wrong. Steven Seagal, still standing perfectly composed, didn't gloat. He didn't raise his voice or flaunt his fame. Instead, he spoke with quiet, firm authority. "Respect should not be conditional," he said evenly. "Everyone deserves to be treated fairly, regardless of appearances, wealth, or status. Your arrogance caused unnecessary humiliation. That is what should be corrected." The crowd of guests, staff, and onlookers collectively gasped. Phones recorded every word, capturing the power of his calm yet commanding voice. Even the rude manager, finally realizing the enormity of the situation, could only mutter an apology, his voice trembling. The general manager quickly stepped forward, placing a hand on the flustered manager's shoulder. "Apologize now? This was completely unacceptable. Mr. Seagal is our guest, our VIP. We will ensure this situation is corrected immediately." Steven's gaze softened as he acknowledged the gesture. He raised a hand slightly to calm the lobby. "No need for public embarrassment," he said quietly. "I am not here to shame anyone. Let this be a lesson. Respect is a right, not something earned by judging others hastily." The guests began to applaud, softly at first, then louder. Phones flashed, capturing the moment when humility and calm authority triumphed over arrogance and disrespect. The entire hotel, from the staff to the visitors, felt the weight of what had just happened. Whispers spread rapidly. "That's Steven Seagal. He just stood there and made the manager apologize. Wow, what a powerful way to handle this." Even the staff members who had been skeptical of Steven's presence earlier were now in awe. The bellboys exchanged glances, silently acknowledging that they had just witnessed a masterclass in poise, restraint, and quiet authority. Engagement hook for YouTube. Studio microphone. If you were Steven, would you forgive the manager? Type yes if you believe in forgiveness, or no if you think he should face consequences. Meanwhile, the VIP suite that Steven had reserved was promptly prepared. The rude manager, still pale and shaking, was quietly instructed to leave the lobby and review proper customer conduct with the staff. Guests whispered excitedly among themselves, snapping photos and videos, sharing what they were witnessing in real time. Steven, finally escorted to his room by the general manager, gave one last calm nod to the crowd. It was a gesture of dignity, respect, and quiet victory. The lobby, once a place of arrogance and tension, had become a living lesson in humility, fairness, and the power of staying calm under pressure. By the time Steven entered his suite, the story of the night had already begun to spread among the guests, staff, and eventually online. Phones continued recording. Whispers continued sharing. And everyone who witnessed the event knew that this was a moment they would tell friends and family about for years to come. The manager's arrogance had been fully humbled, the staff enlightened, and Steven Seagal had proven, without shouting, without threats, without intimidation, that true authority comes from dignity, calmness, and respect. And though Steven had yet to make any public statements about the incident, the impact was undeniable. Everyone in that lobby had learned a lesson that would stay with them forever. The story of the night a calm, composed man turned humiliation into a powerful lesson, was about to go viral. By the next morning, the story of Steven Seagal at the Grand Horizon Hotel had spread like wildfire. Guests who had witnessed the incident uploaded videos to social media, capturing every tense moment. The arrogant manager dismissing Steven, the calm patience of a Hollywood legend, and the manager's public embarrassment when his authority crumbled. The footage quickly went viral. Millions around the world watched as Steven, without raising his voice or using his fame, transformed a moment of disrespect into a lesson in dignity, humility, and quiet power. News outlets picked up the story, and the hashtag Respect Steven Seagal began trending across multiple platforms. Inside the hotel, life returned to normal, but the atmosphere had changed forever. The rude front desk manager, who had once stood tall with arrogance, now faced disciplinary action. He was given a formal reprimand and required to undergo customer service retraining. Word of the incident became a teaching moment for the entire staff, a reminder that respect cannot be earned through intimidation, nor should it ever be withheld. Steven, meanwhile, remained remarkably composed throughout. He didn't seek attention or public praise. After being escorted to his VIP suite, he made a few phone calls to his security and staff, then simply sat in quiet reflection. For him, the lesson wasn't about fame or authority. It was about fairness and the dignity every person deserves. Guests who had witnessed the event continued to share their excitement online. Comments poured in from all over the world. Wow, what a calm, powerful response. That's how you handle disrespect. I've never seen someone turn humiliation into a lesson so elegantly. Some viewers even shared personal stories of times they had faced arrogance or prejudice, inspired by Steven's patience and poise. The incident sparked conversations globally about respect, fairness, and the power of calm authority in the face of ignorance. The hotel's general manager personally reached out to Steven the next day, apologizing again and thanking him for teaching a valuable lesson not just to the staff, but to every guest present. Steven's response was simple, yet impactful. Anger never teaches anything. Calmness and dignity do. Everyone deserves respect. Even long after Steven had left the hotel, the incident continued to circulate online. Guests would often mention it when recounting their stay. You should have seen it. Steven Seagal didn't raise his voice, didn't threaten anyone, and yet the manager was completely humbled. It was incredible. Social media users and news outlets alike praised Steven's approach. His calm, firm handling of the situation became a viral example of leadership, patience, and integrity. Fans across the globe shared clips, memes, and inspirational posts, all highlighting one central truth: respect should never be conditional. The manager, though embarrassed, ultimately became a better professional because of the experience. The story served as a cautionary tale in customer service training programs and became a reference point for handling conflict with humility rather than arrogance. As for Steven, he returned to his routine, quietly satisfied that justice had been served without confrontation. His calm response and unwavering dignity had left a mark on everyone present, guests, staff, and the online audience alike. It was a story of quiet power, resilience, and the transformative impact of respect. If you believe no one should ever be judged by appearance, type respect in the comments below. Share this story with someone who needs to see the power of dignity. And subscribe for more inspiring stories that remind us how patience, calm, and courage can change the world. The night at the Grand Horizon Hotel became more than just a viral story. It became a global lesson in integrity, a reminder that true strength doesn't come from arrogance or intimidation, but from calm confidence, patience, and respect. And in a world that often rushes to judge, Steven Seagal's quiet authority was a lesson millions would never forget.